The Milford Track Guided Walk, a 33.5-mile walking trail through the natural wonder of South New Zealand, an area known as Fiordland. Given World Heritage status, Fiordland boasts of its deep glacier-cut valleys, hanging tributaries, and beach evergreen rainforests. Perhaps the best modern representative of what our ancient rainforests look like. For the next hour, the Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation invites you to come along with Travel Exchange as we hike the 33.5 miles from the head of Lake Teano, over the McKinnon Pass, and into the beautiful Milford Sound, a hike known as the finest walk in the world and one of the world's best adventure experiences. Queenstown, South New Zealand, the gateway to the Fiordland National Park and the Milford Track Guided Walk. The airport immediately reminds arriving passengers that you're a long way from home, but in a very special place. Well, welcome folks. This is Travel Exchange in Queenstown, New Zealand. We made it. It was a long trip, about 15 to 16 hours of travel. We're at least 8,000 miles away from the Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon. That would translate to about 12,000 kilometers. But we're here and it's a beautiful day. We've got some wonderful weather. In fact, right above me here, there's a parasailer coming through. And if we're going to get the camera to swing down, we're going to show you a little bit of the scenery and what you can expect out of Queenstown. After a 2-hour bus ride from Queenstown, we arrive at the Teano Travel Lodge, home of the Milford Track Guided Walk. We are met by Administrative Assistant Robert Mitchell and escorted to hotel check-in. As we're shown to our accommodations, it's apparent that the Milford Track Guided Walk emphasizes comfort and convenience to its guests. From the hotel grounds to the guest services and facilities, the Teano Travel Lodge demonstrates top-level service, the hallmark of the Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation. With time left in our afternoon, we take the opportunity to talk about the tour with Robert Romash, the operations manager for the Milford Track Guided Walk. Well, folks, we're here with Robert Romash. He's the operations manager for the Milford Track Guided Walk. And Robert, we'd first off like to thank you for having Travel Exchange with you on the tour. We're very pleased to be here, and thanks so much for all your efforts to get us here in South New Zealand for this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I just hope you have a good time.
Oh, I think we will.
Sure you will.
We will.
Sure you will.
We wanted to ask you a couple questions about the Milford Track itself. And first off, we're looking at a party of about 23 people that are going with us today. And I understand the capacity of the hike is about, what, 48?
Yeah, we book up to a maximum of 48. That's right. We average, throughout the season, we average about 33 or 34 a day.
And so on a yearly basis, what does that equate to on how many people walk the hike a year?
We take about 5,000 to 5,500 during the 6-month summer season.
Outstanding. And is that the best season to do the guided walk? And your summer season here equates to our winter season in the States. So what are the good months to do the Milford Track Guided Walk?
Oh, any time's a good time to do it. Any time during the summer is a good time to do it. We don't operate during the winter. There's a lot of snow, and then in August, September, October, there's a big avalanche hazard, so we wouldn't operate in the winter. Operate safely when the people are around, and look after them, have a good time.
The first night of our tour starts with a welcome reception and dinner. The reception gives us a chance to meet and mingle with fellow members of our hiking group. The conversations continue as we sit down to a dinner of Milford Sound lobster. And what a dinner! It's our first indication that our Milford Track hosts intend to spare no expense in satisfying their guests' appetites. A tasty way to end day one. As they say in New Zealand, cheers, mate. Day two begins with a morning briefing. Robert Mitchell gives us an overview of the equipment we will need on the track, including clothing needs and helpful hints about the backpacks and rain gear that the track staff will provide for the hike. Before gathering our supplies, we take the opportunity to meet and talk with our lead guide, Tony Dodds. Tony will be an asset to us over the next 4 days in terms of hiking information and inspiration. Well, we've been briefed on the Milford Track now, and it appears that we have everything we need to hike. We've picked up our bed sheets, we've picked up our rain gear, and in just a few minutes we'll be checking out of the hotel. We decide to take Robert's advice and pack light, only what would be essential to carry. There are two main categories for us to consider. First is footwear. Hiking boots must be sturdy and waterproof and should be worn with moisture-wicking undersocks and wool padded outer socks. Also, don't forget to include comfortable footwear for after hiking. And second, your hiking clothes, consisting of lightweight summer shorts and t-shirts, polypropylene undergarments for warmth and moisture wicking, and protective outer garments for extreme conditions. Sun protection such as a hat and sunglasses are a must. And don't forget the sunscreen and insect repellent. As we assemble for our official Milford Track guided walk group photo, group number 85 for the 1996-97 season, we're reminded that each day a new group similar to ours departs from this very spot. Well, it seems like we're all ready to go now. We've checked into the Milford Track office. We have our backpack and all of our essentials, water bottles, our cameras. And in just a few minutes, we're going to enjoy another fine meal by the Milford folks, a nice buffet lunch, and then head on a bus down the lake to a launch that's going to take us on our first actual day on the track. Next, we board the launch Tawera for a 2-hour trip to the northernmost point of Lake Teano. The majesty of Fjordland now surrounds us. The end of Lake Teano and the Glade House Pier. After a short half-mile walk from the pier, we come to our second night's lodging, the Glade House. We are met by the staff and assigned a bunk room. Before we assemble for an introductory nature walk, members of our hiking group from Stanford University take a group photo. On our nature walk, Tony talks about the topography and plant life of the South New Zealand rainforests.
Here's a bracket fungi, or the Japanese call it a monkey seat. Okay. I'll pass one piece around. You want to pass around and have a look at it. Now, the Japanese believe that by breaking this into a powder form, it helps to cure cancer, and they take it with a fluid as well. And if you look underneath there, it's quite white under here, and that's the fungi. It grows on dying or dead red beech trees. This one here is well and truly dead, and quite a bit of fungi growing off it, get the last remaining life out of the tree. And you'll see quite a few of these on this walk and the first part of your walk tomorrow morning, the fungi on the trees. And that means that the tree is either dead or on its way to being dead. Okay? That's the red beech. Another couple of trees around here. You might have seen this one here already. This is the lancewood. Now the lancewood has got quite a serrated edge on it. It's quite sharp. The idea of that was protection against the moa, a big bird that's now extinct. And it eventually grows into this tree here. You can tell a different leaf, totally different leaf altogether. So when it got past the height of the moa, about 15 metres, it then changes into the new tree and the new leaf. So quite amazing.
As we head back to the Glade House, we see the first bridge we'll cross tomorrow on day 3. Day 3 is an early start at the Glade House with a hearty New Zealand breakfast.
Hold up just a ladle full of that, Tony. Yeah, that's known as New Zealand porridge.
That's New Zealand porridge.
All right.
Can't beat it.
Well, after a wonderful breakfast here at Glade House, the last thing we get to do is to pin our home location on the world map. Now, this map is only 1 week's worth of hikers, but as you can see, there's nobody here in Oregon. We're going to pin ourselves right on the board. Ashland, Oregon, the Rogue Valley, here on the Milford Track Guided Walk map at the Glade House. We gather our pre-made lunches and say goodbye to Glade House managers Les and Liz Galloway. Group members start out at their own pace on the 11-mile hike up the Clinton River Valley to Pampelona Lodge. The Clinton River Valley is a hiker's dream come true. After crossing the first of many suspension bridges, the flat, wide, and sandy-based trail shadows the banks of the Clinton River as it meanders up the valley through the beech evergreen forest. Each half mile of the track reveals the splendors of Fjordland. From Devil's Elbow, we get an excellent view of Dore Pass, one of the few overland routes to the outside world. Neil Burn affords a beautiful setting to view the river, forest, and Sentinel Peak. On the track, we encounter several species of bird life, including the New Zealand pigeon, the fantail, and the tomtit. Here, a paradise shelduck searches for food, while geese curiously watch our hiking group trek by. The river hosts a variety of fish, including this 2-foot German brown, a fisherman's dream. At the 5-mile marker, the well-graded track begins to rise above the river, and the steep-sided cliffs of the Clinton Canyon become visible. Near the 7-mile marker, the trail is somewhat interrupted by the rubble of a huge landslide that fell over 30 years ago. The debris blocked the Clinton River, forming what is known as Dead Lake. Shortly thereafter, we stop for lunch and a rest at Harare Falls. Here we make our first acquaintance with the kia, a native alpine mountain parrot known for its beauty as much as its nuisance. Left alone, these inquisitive birds are known to open backpacks and whisk away anything not tied down, including watches, hats, and most certainly your lunch. Leaving Prairie Falls, we get our first look at the McKinnon Pass, a formidable challenge that awaits us on day 4.
Well, we just had our first view of the McKinnon Pass. It's pretty awesome. These mountains around us are absolutely beautiful, but they're so tall. They rise so quickly into the sky. Tomorrow we'll be tackling that pass. And for now, about another hour and a half of hiking till we get to Pompolona Lodge. On our way.
A little further on, 2 separate loop trails take us on short side trips to Hidden Lake and Prairie Lake. Good places to find rest on a fine day. From here, past fields of wildflowers and honeybees, it's only a short distance uphill to our second stopover, Pompolona Lodge. The McKinnon Pass looms in the background.
Nestled on that slope behind me is Pompolona Lodge.
So after 11 miles of hiking on day 3, we arrive at Pompolona Lodge and all the comforts of home. Like all the lodges on the Milford Track guided walk, it features full-service accommodations for about 50 guests per night, including hot showers, washing and drying facilities for hiking clothes, and complete dining room service. Day 3 ends with hikers gathering to share their experiences, compare stories, tend to personal needs, and relax before starting day 4, the most challenging section of the Milford Track guided walk.
The anticipation grows. Yes, yes. Yeah, the mountain.
Day 4 of the Milford Track guided walk is finally here, and it starts early. It's a 9-mile hike over the McKinnon Pass to Quinton Lodge. At the 11-mile marker, a suspension bridge crosses the first of 2 avalanche-blasted creeks as the trail continues to climb the upper reaches of the Clinton River Valley. This section of the Milford Track becomes rocky and narrow in places where avalanches have dumped debris. After a cool sip of water from a fresh glacier-fed stream, we leave Pompolona behind as we begin the steep ascent to Lake Mintaro. Just beyond Lake Mintaro, another suspension bridge crosses the Clinton River for the final time.
That's the last time we'll cross the Clinton River as we leave Mintaro, Lake Mintaro, and now we start up the zigzag. So Clinton River has been our real friend on this first couple days of our hike. Been beautiful rainforest that we've gone through. McKinnon Pass is quite formidable. We'll be climbing about another 2,000 feet from this point up those zigzags. So here we go.
We start our pass climb with the first zigzag and pass the 14-mile marker.
Well, that's zigzag number 1. And we're climbing up above Lake Mintaro, heading up zag number 2, which is the longest of our zigzags, as we climb on up the McKinnon Pass.
The trail gets steeper and more rocky as we climb the longest of the zigzags, number 2.
This is about halfway up zigzag number 3. And we've climbed quite a bit already. Probably a good 800 feet, maybe a little more. Good place to grab a little bit of water, check out the view of Lake Mintaro. Quite a hike, really breathing, but just absolutely stunning scenery. We'll swing the camera around and get a little bit of where we're at.
With each zigzag we climb, the views are more impressive.
So we've reached the 15-mile mark here on zigzag number 4. We've come about halfway on our hike up the McKinnon Pass. About another 1,000 feet to go to get to the top. We're on our way.
The unevenness of the trail increases as we continue to climb. Emerging from the tree line, the trail is still surrounded by ferns, broadleafs, goblin mosses, lilies, and large mountain daisies.
Well, we're leaving zigzag number 5, heading up to number 6. Number 6 is the last zigzag on the tree line. After that, we'll be getting above the bush and above the tree, and we'll be about 500 to 700 feet below the pass.
Finally, at zigzag number 6, we break the tree line.
Zigzag number 7 above the tree line, and now you can actually see the top where our guide Tony is sitting waiting for us up there. About another 500 feet and we're to the top of the McKinnon Pass here in South New Zealand.
Now noticeable are the notoriously unpredictable weather conditions. Warm weather clothing is handy at this stage. Impressive views unfold from zigzag number 9, like the glacial impressions at the head of the Clinton Canyon. With the sky starting to clear, Our last zigzag, number 11, leads us upward to Mount Balloon and the McKinnon Pass.
Well, that completes zigzag number 11, and we're at about the top of McKinnon Pass. And boy, I tell you, I've been a lot of places around the world and seen a lot of scenery, but this rivals anything I've ever seen in terms of beauty and grandeur. The clouds are starting to clear up. We're at about 3,700 feet. Amazing scenery, absolutely amazing. We'll show you around the top of McKinnon Pass a little bit. Then we're going to head up to the pass hut. We still have another 25 minutes of climbing to go till we get to our highest point in the Milford track guided walk, where we'll sit and rest and have lunch and then head back down the other side. We'll take you for a tour now on some of the scenery of the McKinnon Pass in South New Zealand.
The McKinnon Memorial Cairn at about the 16-mile marker.
Memorial to Quentin McKinnon, who first blazed this trail in 1888, more than 100 years ago. Came over and founded this particular trail from the Milford Sound over to Te Anau. So this is where he crossed, and that memorial is to Quentin McKinnon.
During the summer months in South New Zealand, which are November through February, small mountain lakes known as tarns dot the top of the pass. Oh, and what magnificent views greet hikers from atop this alpine lookout. Want to take the fast way down? How about 2,500 feet straight down from the famed 12-second drop?
Well, we've come to the top, the McKinnon Pass, and that walk up was not only exhilarating, quite tiring, but well worth it. We've come up the Clinton River Valley. Now we pass over the McKinnon Pass and we head down into the Milford Sound. We've had outstanding weather to climb this pass. Cool, a little overcast. You don't want real hot sun when you're climbing, but as you can see on the other side of me, it is nice and clear and sunny, so it should make for a wonderful hike down. We'll be heading now down to the Quinton Lodge, where we'll stay one more night before we descend down the valley into the Milford Sound. Well, this is it. the highest point on the Milford Track Guided Walk. One thing is for sure, from now on, it's downhill.
As we start down from the 3,758-foot crest, we see our old friend, the Clinton River Valley.
As we start to head down now, one of the most beautiful sights we can see is the Clinton River Valley. Now this is the valley that we've been walking up for the last 2 days. Absolutely spectacular view. Kind of hard to believe you come up all this way. But that heads back down to Teano, back down to Lake Teano.
The track now edges its way down to the base of Mount Balloon, and the McKinnon Pass shelter comes into view. We can see the start of the steep descent that awaits us after lunch. After a rest, we start the 3,000-foot descent to Quentin Lodge. As we pass the 17-mile marker, the trail gets steep and rocky. We take care with each step, as the magnificent views of Mount Elliott and the Jervois Glacier distract us from the tedious trail. Beautiful wild mountain daisies and other subalpine scrub line the track. Our legs begin to feel shaky as the constant downstepping puts added pressure on our thighs, knees, and ankles. The trail passes under the sheer face of the Jervois Glacier with its numerous waterfalls. Although prone to avalanches, today we're able to cross Roaring Creek by a small steel suspension bridge and take time out for a sip of cool, clean glacial water. Continuing our descent, at about the 19-mile marker, we get our first view of the Sutherland Falls, the 5th highest waterfall in the world. Now the track enters the upper reaches of the Arthur Valley and maintains a steep downgrade alongside cascading waterfalls and wooded areas lush with a variety of ferns, mosses, and daisies. Recently constructed wooden stairways ease our steps downward and provide wonderful platforms from which to enjoy the rushing water as it accompanies us down to the Quentin Lodge. Happy to shed our backpacks, we opt to hike the 30 minutes to the Sutherland Falls. Well worth this side trip, we experience up close the power and majesty of the 3 leaps totaling 1,500 feet. A great way to end day 4 of our adventure. Day 5 and our last hiking day on the Milford Track. 13 miles of hiking in 7 hours, down the Arthur River Valley to Sandfly Point.
Well, this starts day 5 of the Milford Track guided walk, and as you can see, we've finally gotten into the infamous Milford rain. So we're going to be hiking pretty much in rainfall all day today, down the Arthur River and the Arthur Valley. And to my right here is Sasha. She's picking us up here as a guide and going to help us down the valley. Today is about a 7-hour walk. We're going to go clear 13 miles down to Sandfly Point, where we'll catch the boat and head over to the Mitre Peak Lodge. Promises to be pretty wet today? That's about all she can say. It's going to be wet. So we'll be seeing you down the way.
And wet it is, but a beautiful and natural way to experience the Milford Track. Protected by our waterproof garments, we leave Quentin and say our last goodbye to the Sutherland Falls. Now we realize what 300 inches of rain per year means to South New Zealand. Numerous waterfalls that leap off the hillsides.
Our 5th day brings us fairly heavy rain, and it's quite a different type of scenery in the rain. It's awfully beautiful. It's also made a little easier by the fact that we've allowed the Milford Track folks to take our packs from us on this last day. They'll take the packs downriver for us so that we're free to walk without those, in our cases, 35 or 40 pounds of camera gear and our own personal gear. Beautiful, lush, green rainforest as we walk down the 5th day of the Milford Track.
A lush rainforest permeated by stunning varieties of ferns, umbrella moss, and rata.
As we walk down the Arthur River Valley in the midst of this heavy Milford rain, these waterfalls just come right down the hillsides and into the Arthur River. The environment here is very pretty, but very wet. Well, we've come about 5 miles down the Arthur Valley. This is our first stop. It's called the Boat Shed. It's where we get a little bit of morning tea, a bit of a rest before we continue on down. As you can see, the rain is still continuing, and we'll be able to take off all of our garbs. And let me tell you, a good pair of waterproof boots are worth their weight in gold. Come on in for a cup of tea.
Mile marker 25, the Boat Shed. Built in 1928 to house boats and horses used by trackmen more than a half-century ago. A great place to remove our rain gear, dry off, and have a spot of morning tea.
I love the bottles. I wonder who. Hey Tony, did you drink all that?
No, not me. These two fellas here had a decent go at it. These two fellas at the table.
Yeah. The housekeeper hasn't been here in a while, I think.
No, a bit of dust and a few cobwebs.
Only 8 miles to go.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Only 8 miles to go, continuing down the Arthur Valley. Crossing the only suspension bridge over the Arthur River on day number 5, we walk through a pleasant section of native bush with beech trees, rimu, and tree ferns. Extensive boardwalks line the forest floor.
A lot of the Arthur Valley is lined with these boardwalks that go along almost cliff-like parts of the valley, and we probably hiked down about at least 2 or 3 miles of this boardwalk, and this is the second succession of boardwalks. You can see the originals underneath where they'd been down 50 years ago. So we'll continue on down. We're at about our 7th mile now from our last stay at Quinton, heading down towards Sandfly Point.
Mile marker 28, a place called Telegraph Point, brings our first views of Lake Ada. At the 30-mile marker, the track starts to widen and become more manageable. We hear the sound of crashing water as we approach our lunch site at Giant Gate Falls. This stunning falls comes from a hanging valley high above and is an excellent backdrop for rest and lunch. The last 2 miles of the track are leisurely as we hike alongside Lake Ada. Not far from mile marker 31, an old pier is an outstanding spot to take in the peace and the tranquility of Fjordland. Two easy miles later, there it is, Sandfly Point, the end of the Milford track.
Well, this sign says it all, 33.5 miles. Starting way back there with Lake Teano at the Glade House and walking up the Clinton River Valley, stopping at the Pompolona Lodge, walking over the McKinnon Pass, 3,700 feet, down into Quinton Lodge, and now down the Arthur Valley and here to Sandfly Point. And what a true memorial this is. Look at all these shoes for all the hikers who wanted to leave a little bit of themselves for what they've just accomplished. Quite a memorial for the Milford Track Guided Walk. This is Joe Rossi for Travel Exchange.
With a mixture of exhilaration and exhaustion, we temporarily shed the rain gear and relax until the boat arrives to take us to the Mitre Peak Lodge.
And from Sandfly Point, the launch Anita Bay will take us over to the Mitre Peak Lodge, which will be our last night stay here on the Milford Track Guided Walk. So on to the lodge. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. First thing I'd like to say to all of you is congratulations on completing the Milford Track. Hope you had a most enjoyable time. I'd also like to be the first to welcome you to Milford Sound and aboard the Anita Bay.
With the Arthur River Valley behind us, the physically demanding part of our trip is over, and a tired yet reflective group of hikers look forward to a warm shower and our clean clothes that await us at the Mitre Peak Lodge.
This is the Mitre Peak Lodge. This is where we stayed for our last night on the Milford Track Guided Walk, and boy, this is something I can really use. Look at there. Our bags waiting for us from when we left the Travel Lodge in Teano. So that means a clean change of clothes, and we're ready to hit the shower.
Situated at the foot of the remarkable Milford Sound, the Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation's Mitre Peak Lodge offers all the amenities of a truly fine hotel. Day 5 ends with this hiker ready for a good night's sleep.
Well, day 6 here of the Milford Track Guided Walk, and although we have finished the walk itself, the Milford Track folks give us an extra added bonus day. What we're going to do this morning is take one of those red boats behind me here, and we're going to go cruise on the Milford Sound. Absolutely glorious day to be here. The weather has broken to a very beautiful blue sky, crystal clear this morning. So on our way now over to check out the Milford Sound and take a nice ride this morning.
From the beginning of our cruise, limitless photographic opportunities present themselves, highlighted by the most photographed landmark of the Milford Sound, Mitre Peak. Rising a sheer mile from the ocean to its highest point. Our boat remains close to the shoreline, enabling us to get close-ups of wildlife, like these seals basking on a rock in the protective sanctuary of the Sound. other natural landmarks, like Sterling Falls. In this place of unparalleled beauty, we're reminded of the spectacular forces of nature that shaped this land millions of years ago. But all good things must come to an end, and for our Stanford alumni hiking companions, it's off to their flight back to Queenstown. However, for the last stage of our journey, we choose the 2-hour scenic drive by coach back to Teano. Climbing up the Clado Valley, we come to the historic Homer Tunnel. When we exit the other side, majestic Mount Talbot and its glacial waterfalls form the headwaters of the Hollyford River, and descend southward into the Hollyford Valley. On our return trip to Teano, we encounter pristine Christie Falls, a stunning final reminder of Fiordland's wild and scenic beauty. Hey, we've come full circle on the Milford Track Guided Walk, and we couldn't have done it without this guy right here, Tony Dodds. He's been our guide and our expert throughout the entire trip. Tony, we want to thank you very much for leading us through the McKinnon Pass and all the way up and down. The 3 times that you went up and down both sides to help all the hikers out. So it's really been our pleasure to be on the tour with you.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks for everything.
It's been good.
And for our audience in the United States who gets to see you, this is an example of these strapping young New Zealand guys who hike up and down these passes all the time. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks so much, eh? You really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim, as well. That's right.
In closing this episode of Travel Exchange, there are a few people that we need to thank, particularly Mr. Bill Nielsen, who's the area manager for the Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation, Mr. Robert Romash, who's the operations manager here for the Milford Track Guided Walk, and particularly for my cameraman and friend Jim Curtis, who, without his skilled expertise, we would not have gotten half of the great footage that came with this show tonight. So from South New Zealand, this is Joseph Rossi, your host of Travel Exchange, signing off from the finest walk in the world, the Milford Track Guided Walk.